I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And today we have a very special guest for our new episode of our favorite ghost stories, or should I say Robin's favorite ghost stories. Woohoo! Yes, we have Robin here, and she is here with the Rainbow Connection. Robin, can you tell us a little bit about the Rainbow Connection?
Rainbow Connection is Michigan's form of Make-A-Wish. So if you are in Michigan and you want to do a wish, I highly recommend Rainbow Connection.
Yes. And so one of Robin's requests was she wanted to come to Savannah and experience the most haunted city on earth, at least how we like to refer to it.
Anything haunted, I should say.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're like super paranormal fan.
Yes.
I love it. That's amazing. So we wanted to bring Robin on today and talk about some of the various hauntings that you enjoy, various folklore and experiences that you've had. Before we get into that, though, we do want to thank a few new para-junkies who have joined us. So let me go ahead and pull that up. I should have done this beforehand, but... So, new para-junkies. We have Kalana Crab, Lexi, Alexis Heiss, Stephanie Lynn, and Alyssa Hill. Thank you guys so much for becoming para-junkies. And if you want to become a para-junkie, join us over on Patreon. We're currently live streaming this episode for them. So you get to see this. You get a bunch of exclusive content. You get to interact with us and see all the nonsense that we do on a daily basis that is paranormal based. So it's super fun.
You get to interact with other para-junkies, which is really amazing.
It is. There is a very active community in the para-junkie world.
As there should be.
As there should be. The ghost people stick together, and I like that. Now, Robin, so basically, I kind of want to start it off with the fact that you had shared with me that you kind of have clairvoyant abilities.
Yes.
And as you know, I also see
Yes.
spirits, so I'm very intrigued to hear about your experience as well, because I know it's so varying between people. So what's kind of like your first experience seeing a spirit?
Well, when I was little, obviously, but one that I remember very, like, a lot or whatever was when I first got diagnosed about a year ago. I told my dad to come watch Jeff Dunham, which is what was mine and my papa's favorite thing with my papa and I, which is my dad's dad. He was like, my dad was like, "Papa, what do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, he's sitting right there on the heater." Because he was sitting on a heater in my room. Because my papa, he was this very scrawny, grumpy old man. He's a retired Marine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he has the right of way. Well, he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, he's sitting right there." So my dad called my mom over and I was like, "Apparently Papa's in here with us." So, and then when I got my surgery in April, I was fully sedated, and around the like surgery table or whatever, I had my eyes closed obviously, but I saw Bella, which is who's there this was from or whatever, and Miss McCormick, who was my choir pianist, my grandma who just passed away a month before, and then my papa all surrounding on the table with me. And then when I woke up, they were still surrounding the hospital bed.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
I have chills. That literally just like gave me goosies. Well, and that's so fascinating because it's you hear that a lot with people, especially who are going into, you know, like surgeries that are very intense, and people who are going through hardships where your loved ones suddenly surround you. And it's so fascinating that you had so many people show up. That's so cool.
the surgery, they took out my fourth rib and part of my fifth because that's where the main tumor was.
Right.
And so far, there's nothing still on this side, but we do have like a small 4 millimeter spot right here, but that's been stable at 4, so
Well, that's good.
it's like tiny.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so do you think that they were kind of like there to just like watch over you, or like what was the vibe that you were getting from them?
I was getting like the protectance vibe, like they were sitting there protecting me, making sure that I was okay.
Right.
I think it was my aunt or something or my Aunt Rachel, my mom, one of my mom's best friends, or my Aunt Tracy, I don't remember. But she said that my grandma might have given her life to protect mine.
Wow.
Because my grandma passed away literally a month right before my surgery.
Wow.
So
I believe we had somebody write in a letter with a story very similar to that, because that type of bargain is not uncommon in stories.
yeah.
Where somebody who is further along in age and further along in experience.
My grandma, she was suffering from really bad COPD. And the last few months, and pretty much the beginning of this year, she was in and out. When we took her home for one last night before the next day she was right back in, she went into cardiac arrest because she was panicking so much because she didn't want to die, but she felt like she was scared.
Sure.
I should say. That's the best way to get
Right.
it.
Of course.
With her, once they intubated her and everything, she was like, "Get me out of this thing. I'm ready, whatever." That next few days, either the next day or the day after, she passed at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And
I mean, sometimes it is hard for people to grasp the fact that it's time to pass and move on. But it's fascinating that there's that feeling that she was there. She had another purpose.
yeah,
And you see that a lot with family members. And I'm a big believer in soul families of sorts, because, like my grandmother passed when I was very, very little. And she became, and I truly believe a lot of the purpose of that was because she was meant to become my guardian spirit.
Right.
She is like my main spirit guide and all that. And
my mom's grandma, my great grandma, she passed away New Year's Eve of 2006 going into 2007, which was the year I was born.
Oh.
And her birthday is the same day as mine and my sister's.
Whoa.
So Mom believes that she might be our guardian angel, plus obviously everybody else. So
Exactly. Well, and it's very, very likely that they're all just there to, kind of make sure you're safe.
And then my childhood dog, of course, his
Yes.
name's Chance. He had a tumor like right by his butt, and it ended up being cancer. And he could barely walk anything. And at night, all you heard was the poor baby screaming in pain. So when we went, and Mom and Dad went and put him down, and we have his ashes at the house. And my dad also has his dad's ashes, like Chance's dad, Harley. He tried to jump over a fence, and the chain caught on the fence, and he choked himself.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, we have his ashes too. And then, yeah.
I mean, well, and so like with dog spirits especially too, I think that they stick around as well. And we've talked about that a couple
I
times.
feel like I've heard my dog Chance, especially at night, because he used to go and sleep in front of mine and my sister's doors. We used to share a bedroom, but now we have our own separate bedroom. So I feel like I hear like dogs going like this. I feel like it was him going from door to door, trying to make sure that we're okay and safe, because that's what he did. He slept right in front of our doors. He never would sleep inside of our rooms. He'd either sleep in front of our doors or upstairs in Mom and Dad's room.
Right. And well, and I've had a similar experience to that as well. One of my dogs when I was a kid passed away. We kept his ashes as well. And he used to do the same thing. You could hear, he was a big dog, and so you could hear him slump against the door.
Chance was a Bull's Mastiff.
Oh,
That's a big
wow.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, big boy.
Or I think, yeah.
Some type of Mastiff, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so but it was the same kind of feeling where it's like, oh, he's coming to lay in front of the door, you know, and I think a lot of times dogs become so attached to us, and we become so attached to them. Of course, they'll come in and check.
When Chance was my childhood dog, my dad raised that dog since he was born. He bottle fed him and everything.
Oh, wow.
So that dog I've known my whole life. He was there he was like at the house when I was born and everything. So that dog was my brother.
Yeah, exactly.
We have 2 more dogs at home. Sassy, which we got like not even a month after we put Chance down. Because my dad goes, the kids need a dog. My mom looked at him and said, no, you need a dog. So we got Sassy. And then we stayed in that house for a little bit. Then we ended up moving to the house we're in now. And then with that one, we got in that one, like, I think about a year, maybe a year and a half to 2 years after we moved in, we got Spaz. Now, Spaz wasn't the dog we were supposed to get. We were supposed to get a totally different one. But Mom and Dad looked and saw Spaz pretty much half dead on the fence. Well, we brought him home. He was spazzing out in the car. So Mom and Dad looked at each other and named him Spaz. Well, they got to the house. Spaz is about, I think, 15 or so weeks. Mm-hmm. So after we got him, he was eating and drinking fine. He was just throwing it up right after. Mm-hmm. Well, Mom was like, okay, this is fine. Let's take him to the vet. Well, come to find out, his glucose was really low. Mm-hmm. So the vet suggested giving him some sugar water. So not even 2 weeks later, he's this huge fur ball that loves to play and everything, and he's 6 now.
Oh, love that. Yeah. I really hope, well, actually, I know Argyle, our Silky Terrier, she's going to come back and haunt us for the rest of our lives.
Oh, I feel like he is, too.
Yeah, I love that.
He reminds me a lot of Chance, too. Mm-hmm. Chance, he used to, like, go and try and he took, like, 2-liter bottles or even water bottles, like any bottle, and start chewing on it. And Spaz does that, too. He tears up a toy instantly.
Interesting. And I've heard of like stories where people believe that like the spirit of their past dog moves into another one and you're supposed to find that dog eventually.
That's how I feel like it is with Spaz, because that one drew like attention to my mom and dad, because we were supposed to get one that looks exactly like him from like the same litter and everything, but we didn't. We got him. And I feel like that was something drawn into my parents.
And that would make sense if they have an attachment to Chance, you know, that he wouldn't try to find a new.
Yeah, and like I said, my dad raised that dog since he was this big.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. So on a different topic, so I do want to ask you, like you said that you're really into folklore and stuff.
Yes.
What's your favorite folklore story? I know that's probably a loaded question, but
I'd say, like I was telling you, the Wendigo or the Banshee.
Nice.
Because I don't know why or how, I just got really into like that kind of stuff. There's this YouTuber I used to watch when I was younger named Delightful. Shout out to her, even though she probably isn't watching this. Everybody, like little kids, might enjoy it. She does like Halloween episodes.
Oh, cool.
And one episode, it was like, I think her second one, she did a Wendigo. Then in like 2018, she did a Banshee. And it was pretty cool. She named the Wendigo Wendy. And I don't remember what she named the Banshee, but...
Bathsheba.
Yeah.
Bathsheba the Banshee.
Betty the Banshee.
Bathsheba is another folklore.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's a witch.
It is. It is. And so what kind of drew you to the Wendigo? I mean, so you're from Michigan,
yes.
which is not...
It's with the dog man. That's the folklore. Yeah. And Claire.
Yes. So do you that would be an area where Wendigos would kind of
Yeah.
exist. So is that maybe why, like, you feel
I
more
honestly
attached to
don't
it?
know. It's just the fact that I just found interest in it, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know, like the skeletal body that they seem to have, and like the fur randomly placed everywhere, with crippled legs, anything. I don't know.
It's a very scary creation, absolutely, and it is supposed to represent the absolute corruption of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that interesting aspect of the fact that this is the result of doing something so heinous or so
and
terrible.
Like I was telling Madison, the Wendigo episode that you guys made is my favorite episode. So
I love that. And that was that a From One to Wicked as well?
I think so.
Yeah. Which I'm glad that you appreciate the From One to Wicked. I don't think they don't get enough love. And I love the Wendigo story too, just because it's so fascinating to think that there is like even scientific studies into it, because of the nature of the cannibalism that's associated with that story. Right. Because there are so many ways that it could have manifested, and now it's become this whole like crazy whimsical sort of lore. It's just an insane story. So if you haven't watched the Wendigo episode, go watch that, because
you should just go and watch all of them, to be honest.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, thank you, Robin.
That soundbite will be going out in all directions.
Yes, every ad, it'll just be Robin's face. Go and watch all the episodes. But yeah, and then with the Banshee too, I think that's also a really interesting story, because it's something that's stood the test of time, but also is so horrifying, because there's so many folklore stories, and we start to realize this when we do From One to Wickeds. We're like, well, like we just did the Kasha, which I don't know if you listened to that episode.
I think so.
Yeah. So
sounds familiar.
Yeah, the Kasha was a part of our Halloween series, and we're like, well, it's kind of just like a rodent or like a feral cat, like, And so, like, maybe it's not that scary. But then you, like, look at things like the Banshee, and you're like, no, that's horrifying. I don't ever want to encounter that.
Yeah.
Before history is written, it's played. Before it's frozen in time, it's fought one shift at a time. Before it's etched in silver, it's carved in ice. What happens next will last forever. The Stanley Cup Final on ABC and ESPN Plus begins Saturday.
I like the story behind the Banshee one.
Exactly. And it's, and I love the idea of like the scream is going to mean something,
The scream.
We talk about ghosts having jobs.
Yeah.
It's like this ghost has a very specific job.
Very.
I mean, the Banshee is them finding their ex-love, or like a love or whatever, being male or female. So to go and lure you in by like their screams or whatever, to make sure that for you going and making sure they're okay, is with the Banshee and stuff. And with that one, pretty much it's them luring you in, being, like I said, male or female, to be their new love, because it's the groom or something, I don't remember quite, ran away, and she turned into that.
Right, the wailing. And it's interesting because in that evolution of storytelling, because anyone who hears the Banshee cry is destined to die.
Yes,
is the kind of,
and that's why it's luring you in to be like your lover, and then you die in the long run.
Plays into sirens.
Yes,
which and
I love the thing for sirens too.
All of these.
You want to hear a theory about the Little Mermaid?
Let's hear it.
Yes.
All right. So, one of the theories for the Little Mermaid is that Ariel isn't actually a mermaid. She's actually a siren, because she has her siren call.
That's right.
And she lured in a sailor and brought him back to life just to love him.
Interesting.
And that actually fits perfectly with the overall story,
Right.
even because mermaids and sirens oftentimes are
Yes.
Interchangeable
in
But
certain
mermaids,
cultures and stuff.
if you go realistically, aren't the beautiful, pretty ones. It's
No,
the sirens.
it's true.
No.
Because they're luring them in and getting them to love them.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. That's how the transposition
Yes.
of sirens and mermaids came about was because sailors, oftentimes going stir crazy on the boat, would be looking over the sides of the water and seeing figures and shapes in the water and being like, "It's a beautiful woman." It's like, "It's a manatee. Calm down."
Yeah.
Which are beautiful.
I don't know what your beautiful
Yes.
woman exactly is, but
It's some type of mythical animal, I
it's-
guess.
oh no,
Some
it's
type
it's
of manatee-looking
beautiful. Look at
thing.
Beautiful.
Manatees are my favorite animals, so y'all be
they're
nice
adorable.
to
My
them.
favorite animals are
They're absolutely
tigers.
adorable.
Oh, love that.
But
My favorite mythical
Sailors are
animal
fool.
is a unicorn.
there
Oh
you go.
yeah.
Those also Bella's.
Oh, I love it. Unicorns are fabulous as well,
Yes.
which are so fascinating too.
And they can come in all different types of colors. You can get dark, you can get light, you can get middle.
We love that. We love a wide variety of
Yes.
unicorns.
All the hues.
Yeah, and unicorns too are just a beautiful kind of yes, JT.
I was going to ask, I thought that I raised my hand when everything was over with the unicorn thing. What's your favorite Savannah Ghost story?
Ooh, so far.
Yeah.
I like the hag one.
Oh, if you
yeah.
haven't heard, yeah.
Yeah, and
I liked the hag one quite a bit.
Okay.
And then I know a lot about like the yellow fever outbreaks. Not even just here, but because of history, my history class and stuff, I know quite a bit of them. So I'd say probably the hag because that one's pretty funny.
yes. And if you didn't hear JT's question, he was basically asking what's your favorite Savannah ghost story you've heard so far. I completely agree with you. The hag is
I like
horrifying.
the pirate house one too.
Oh yeah.
One of the actors. He played the guy that went and drunk to that, like made him drunk and then put him in the rum cellar.
Oh,
Yes.
And I actually got to meet him like in person without all the makeup and stuff, and he was pretty cool.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
That's awesome.
all of the actors are cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, so we don't do the Pirates House at our show, but there's a
The
couple.
old Savannah Tours.
Yeah,
does.
Old Savannah Tours does bring on characters
Yes.
throughout the city, which is really
And
interesting.
if you go through Old Savannah Tours, you get to go into the rum cellar, and they're the only one that does that.
That's right.
which is so cool. I mean, in the Pirates House is just such a fun story. I mean, who
The
doesn't?
food's good too.
It is. I mean, who doesn't love sweet tea fried chicken? Like
that's
that's
right.
you know. But you know, it's such a fun story. Not for the people who went through it, but for us, it's a fun story
Right.
because who doesn't love a pirate dragging a drunken man
the old
down?
Shanghai.
They he drunken too.
Yes. And well, and that's the thing. And I just love the imagery of them throwing a man into a hidden wall compartment
Yeah.
and him scratching, and they find the scratch marks after a period of time. Like that's
I mean, that's why they put the bells on the people's finger.
Mhm.
But from what we heard when we went on to like that grave tour or whatever.
Oh, Ghosts and Gravestones.
No,
Okay,
we
not
went to
that one.
Ghost or Grave Encounters, but
Oh, Grave
We went
Encounters. Okay.
We went to the Bonaventure
Nice.
cemetery tour or whatever. And she said that nobody took the people out when the bells rang
It's true.
It's
one
true.
Of one of the problems with the
because
bells,
they couldn't really hear it because it was so quiet.
and
Right.
yeah, you know, if you're in the middle of the night ringing a bell, but also wind made
Yeah.
the bells go off.
True.
And so, in early instances of the bells, they did dig them up,
Right, and they were still gone.
but they were gone, and it was like I
Because,
think the
like-
bell was too light, and the
Right.
wind was
because
making them
one
ring.
of the symptoms for the yellow fever was death or coma,
coma,
Mhm.
right?
and they didn't know what a coma was then from what I was hearing, and boom, They
That's what
buried
a wake
them
was.
alive.
A lot of people don't realize that a wake,
Right.
literally named a wake, was a period of time when they just were in case.
Yeah.
Because there have been enough instances where people were
and
buried
they-
alive or where they sat up at their
And
funeral.
I'm pretty sure they had like one of those where you squeeze,
Yeah.
like blood pressure
Oh,
pump.
sure.
You could have seen.
Yeah.
Well, even in today's medical science, there are people who go into such deep states that their
Yeah.
heart beats slow to near, nothing or hardly
yeah.
registered. And even on like an EKG, a single beep could have been an electric
Right.
impulse driving through the nerves. Could have been anything
Yeah.
like that. So there are weird stories
The
of
body
people.
does
yeah.
weird things.
It does.
The body's a strange beast.
And we're not saying that rigor mortis isn't a thing where, people pop up suddenly, because that does
Right.
happen. But it did happen a lot with funerals. And that was also why the wake oftentimes happened in the home.
Right.
Because they're like, well, if they wake up, at least they're at home.
Right.
You know. And the Victorians especially were so superstitious too. So you can do a whole deep dive into all of the fun funeral rituals.
And it's fascinating because as society grew, the concept of keeping a body around longer before burial, because it used to be bury it before sundown. Bury it, if somebody dies, you bury them right away because there are a lot of scavenger animals. There are a lot of scary things that'll come and chew on your loved ones. So the whole reason we bury them in the first place is because it's strangely disrespectful to let a bunch of animals,
Yeah.
Although I think it's the most natural thing to do.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I'm like, well, technically, I would kind of prefer, the earth to consume my body at least. If
Well,
I
we become
was,
obsessed with the body.
yeah,
My mom said that she doesn't want to get buried because she doesn't want creepy crawlies crawling in every crevice of her body and stuff. She'd prefer to be cremated.
Sure.
that was the
Which is a valid reason.
yeah.
It's very valid.
That was the reason why my grandmother is in a drawer. She hated dirt. She did not like it. And so she is in a very nice air-conditioned wall.
Well, as long as she's comfortable. That's
She's
the
very
important thing.
comfortable. She's got a nice window. She's got all the things. But yeah, it's true. And I love hearing people's thoughts on like how they would like to be buried, because there's so many differing opinions. Like,
sure.
especially nowadays, people like want to become trees. They want to become diamonds. They want to become like all these things. And
I would like to be a tree, I think.
yeah, that's how my mom.
Just a tree growing out of your grave.
Yeah.
Well, they started
I think
making
it's
these
cool.
little pods
Yes.
that they'll put your body in with a sapling, and then the tree will grow.
I like the tree growing out of your grave better.
Well, if you go to enough
Just somebody-
cemeteries, you'll see that.
Oh,
Yes.
I know.
There's
Just
plenty of
somebody
cemeteries.
plants a tree seed right there,
Right.
and it just
It's-
covers your gravestone.
Yes.
Even in classic folklore, because there's a lot of fairy
Yeah.
tales where
lot of
the
fairy
tears
tales,
of
folklores,
the
all of
person
that.
grows the seed into a beautiful tree
Yes.
over the grave of a loved one. I think the Cinderella story has a
I think so. Maybe
there's a version.
the Brothers Grimm version. Maybe yeah.
Yes.
because it was the tree itself. That
You want to
gave
hear something
everything.
about Cinderella?
I do
Yes.
always.
All right. So you know how the stepsisters don't fit the shoe?
Oh yes.
Well, in the Brothers Grimm version, they actually cut off their skin to where they
Yep.
can fit the shoe.
One sister lost her heel and the other lost her toe.
I
Yep.
love that.
To where they can fit the shoe and marry the prince.
I love that. I actually have a Brothers Grimm wallet because I love
My mom
their
had
stories.
a Brothers Grimm coloring book.
That's amazing.
I got it from Walmart. I have a coloring book that has a whole bunch of like different scary stuff or whatever.
Oh, there you go.
Good on you, Walmart.
Right?
Yeah.
Serving up the spooky.
Yes. The
Anything scary, I'm in for.
yeah, exactly.
It was only like $11.
That's perfect. I mean,
it's cheap too, so
so you can color all your scary images and
for cheap.
For cheap.
for cheap. That's the important one.
And with the idea of plants coming out of cemeteries, it's funny actually that comes up because JT and I just literally a couple days ago when we were leaving Hawaii, because we just got back yesterday, and when we were driving to the airport, we went by the cemetery that was so gnarly looking. Like, it was so haunted, very sacred. So that's a whole different story. But the point is basically there were so many plants growing out of these tombs and headstones. It was so, like, you wouldn't even be able to walk on it if you wanted to. And I think that when you have a very sacred area like that, or the rituals are so intense, it makes sense that there's so much folklore around these plants growing out of it, because I think that was the intention, is that these people were going to eventually return back to the earth, because it was very natural looking.
I forgot what I was about to say.
That's okay. While you're thinking about it, I'll continue talking for you. So with that too, especially, it was super interesting because of the fact that pretty much the whole cemetery had massive signs. We were actually going to pull over there to do an Estes method and film it for the Parajunkies, but as soon as we pulled up, I was like,
I got to get my mom to get me on there.
Yes. Yeah, you got to.
You'll just notice my name.
I love it. And so, like, when we pulled over, I immediately just got this feeling like, oh, no, we are not supposed to be here. Like, I've been in a lot of cemeteries at this point, and I had never felt that, like, gut nodding sensation where I was like, it was a very stern energy from the spirits.
The YouTubers Maggie and Amanda. Amanda, she's a medium. She can see them and stuff. And whenever they were in, like, the concert hall of the Stanley Hotel, they saw, or she felt like that pit in her stomach, like, I don't think we should be here type feeling. And where the Stanley Hotel is where they made where the Estes method was originally made in Estes, Colorado. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it was designed for an investigation at the Stanley Hotel.
And it's very effective, as y'all know, at this point. Which, if you are not a parajunkie, you really should consider becoming one, just to watch the Estes method that we did at Judd Trail.
You should just get into liking the paranormal.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah. We did an Estes method there, and it was so, I don't know why, we're getting spoiled with our Estes methods, because the ghosts have been very, very communicative, but we were getting such direct responses to it.
And that's what happens. And the person with the headphones on can't hear anything besides static or when they talk, because with the spirit box, it switches in between different radio stations. And sometimes you can pick out which is a little girl, a man, or a female.
Oh, yeah.
Or even a little boy.
Which is the most alarming thing about the spirit box, is when you start to hear a voice that is repetitive, and because you're scanning radio stations up and down. So when you start to recognize a voice and it's coming through, and it's like, okay, so that's not just like snippets of a DJ speaking. It's not just snippets of some broadcast.
It's like the actual person.
Right, something is manufacturing, a sound using
from the
all
YouTuber Sam Colby. I'm just shouting out a whole bunch
of absolutely.
Go for it.
They did one at the Hellfire Club, and it was right in front of those tunnels. And right in front of the tunnels, they kept hearing, or I'm pretty sure it was Colby, with the headphones on and stuff, they were asking questions, and they did not want to talk to him. They wanted to just talk to the girls. Well, a lot of the spirits were more into the females, especially with all the other places and stuff. So they wouldn't talk to Sam. They would talk through Colby, but only talk to the females. Same with the cowboy in room 428 in the Stanley Hotel.
And that'll happen sometimes. You'll notice certain people give off different energy.
Yeah, and they're more attracted towards, like, most of the males at least are more attracted to females. And some of the women even that have been tortured by the males like the females more because they're scared of the males.
Exactly. And I think that also leans into the idea that women tend to be more sensitive too. And I think a lot of times it assists when you're doing a experiment in that way because of the fact that it takes a little bit less energy for the spirits. So it's going to, and also I find that a lot of men in the paranormal scene are very aggressive.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily the way you want to go about it because nobody, like, people don't comprehend enough that spirits, a lot of spirits, not all of them, but a lot of spirits were people.
Majority of them.
Right. Were people at one point, and nobody wants to be yelled at.
Right.
And even as a spirit. So.
Well, and like gets like. You'll find that the more aggressive you are, the more aggressive the response.
Yes.
And that
exactly.
that is not indicative of a haunting. That is indicative of
them being like
of energies going back and forth, right?
And they use energy from like cameras or phones to tell you. If you ask them to show themselves, they will. But they use the energy from your energy, your phone, your camera energy, any of that, and show themselves to you.
Right. Which is why, like, 3 people with one camera passed between them. Only one person is going to get that shot. Because the spirit is responding not just to the equipment, but to who's holding the equipment.
Exactly.
And it's
a
fascinating.
lot of like different things I've watched on like YouTube or whatever, even Ghost Adventures. Their cameras are fully charged once they walk in, but halfway through the thing, it shuts off and it's dead, and they have to go around and grab a different battery or something.
Oh, we've had that happen. So
JT
many
knows
times.
about that. He's shaking his head. That happens a lot
because they're using their energy.
Well, electricity being like one of the most easily digestible energies for a spirit. There's a long-going theory that I've had that that's why theaters are oftentimes haunted, is because those big lights are drawing so much electricity that it's just a smorgasbord.
It's true.
I got a question for you too.
Absolutely.
Has there been any like major like spirits showing themselves to you while you guys are recording, and like how?
Like recording these episodes?
Yes.
Or yeah.
So when we used to record in this Bay Area, we definitely had lots of instances of like the big doors in the back swinging open, sounds. Lots of times it's like scraping sounds, like something's moving, footfalls. I don't see things.
She does.
Yeah.
And what she sees is oftentimes incidental to what what's happening, because this is just a high trafficked area. Plus, she's a lightning bolt. A lightning rod for ghosts. So it's very likely that a lot of ghosts are just following her around because they are like, oh, she'll see us.
Yeah.
So it's not always going to be here. But I've definitely had like moments of
where you notice something.
Yeah, that feels off. There's that something's behind us. Haven't had in this room yet because the wall is right here. And if there's a ghost behind me, they're really close.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you never know, though, too.
Well, I mean, I haven't felt it yet, so.
I mean, just let me look.
Well, and the funny thing is we've caught so many things happening on camera.
Yeah.
Like, so many people have sent us things where they're like, oh, at this timestamp, it's this news in the background or whatever. But I've seen so many spirits pop up when we're talking about spirits. And a lot of times it happens with people who come in. We had one woman come in, and we were talking about the Atwells because there was we were talking about the equipment, and suddenly it became an investigation.
Because we're turning all the equipment on and listening to.
And all of a sudden, the Atwell name kept coming through and all of that. And when this woman came in, she's from a long line of Savannians, and Atwell is a Georgia family and all of that. And as soon as she came in, I saw this man standing over in the corner who had this big handlebar mustache, and I'd never seen him before here. And I was like, oh, he must be Atwell because
because they were. I mean, it's a whole Beetlejuice thing. Say
It
the name 3 times or more, and they show up.
Right. Well, and he's not the only one. I mean, I've seen our resident spirits that have come through here plenty of times while we're filming. I call one of them the Gray Lady because have you ever seen Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she looks like her. And
Okay.
so that was basically the way I could describe her the best. And
Valid reason.
yeah, and so I've seen her while we're filming. There's a couple spirits. There's like a shapeshifter one that shows up every once in a while. He's a lot. And so...
Well, have you seen him as?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've seen him...
He mimics a lot, doesn't he?
He's a mimic for the most part. The weirdest one was we have an actor named Bill who... he's an older man, so a lot of times he would leave early during the shows after his parts finished so he could get home. And when I was sitting on the trolley one evening with the driver, we were sitting there and we see Bill come out and walk towards the front of the building. And so we're like, oh, he must be getting ready to leave. Like, seems a little early for him to leave, but whatever, they must have finished already. And so the weird part is that a few minutes later, we saw Bill walk out the front door again. And we're like, hold on, how did you just, we're like, Bill, did you just walk to the front of the building? He's like, no, I just came out. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the mimic.
Yeah.
So I've seen him as Bill. I've seen him.
Didn't Khalif run into it
Yes.
imitating the hag?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Was
it
there's a
as
hag
like your
character.
actor?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're literally doing the hag back, mirroring.
Well, and
Maybe it was just trying to freak out the.
I think that's
actor.
exactly what's happening.
well, because Leafy was not really that big of a believer in the paranormal.
Right.
Like, he didn't not believe, but he wasn't like super, you know.
And not in
Anyways.
any rush to find out.
Exactly. And so
It can be creepy when
It
you like
is.
find out for the first time or whatever.
It was really freaky for him because he came out, and during the show, there's a part where the hag basically gets trapped and they're not allowed to move. So
They try to get out, but they can't really
Exactly.
get out because they have to act like they're trapped.
Exactly. And that was when he felt the hag coming up on him, and it looked exactly like him, and it was freaking him out because he couldn't move.
Is it the same actor that was the
No,
one last night?
So that was a different actor. He has not experienced the mimic yet.
It's going to be fun if he
somebody has
does.
seen White Nightgown.
Yes.
Someone in a white nightgown, which is also a character.
That was JT. JT saw, and he thought it was our set designer, and maybe because they played pranks on each other.
Yeah.
So he thought that maybe Shelby had like thrown on the Mary gown
Yeah.
and was like trying to creep him out. But Shelby was like, no, why would?
I still think it was her.
It wasn't though. Like she, it was not. JT said it. I still think it was her, but.
And that's how people rationalize to keep from going insane.
Yeah.
But I have also seen an entity in the demon room that I think is really freaky because it's a very dark, almost
Mary's
like
room.
yeah. Well, it's called demon room for the scene, but also
Yeah.
because this thing is horrifying. It's literally darker than dark, kind of like that's the best way I can explain it. Like it looks
like the devil kind of.
yeah, and
dark.
it has red eyes, which is.
That's freaky.
It's really horrifying, and I think one of our former actors actually brought this entity because she had mentioned that her uncle saw this entity around her, and suddenly it stuck around here.
Sure.
And
Probably because it felt like it was welcomed or whatever.
Well, yeah.
Because of mainly like the scenes and stuff
exactly.
it's true.
that you guys
Exactly.
have done and like the quote unquote murder
Yeah, well,
scene.
we're the perfect breeding ground for.
Yeah.
Well, and spirits are looking for places where they're accepted, and they're kind of celebrated here.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of
they're-
loneliness to the idea of
And that's
of,
why
of
it
a
felt
spirit.
like it was welcomed and things like that. So
Exactly. Have you ever been on a paranormal investigation?
I wish, not like professionally or whatever,
Sure.
but I've heard like things around my house. I don't have any equipment. I need equipment though. I so want it. But I've heard like random things around the house when I'm the only one home, and when the cat's down outside and my dogs are laying in my bed, or my mom's in the kitchen. I hear stuff going upstairs, like scattered running,
Mm-hmm.
or when, like I said, the cat's outside and the dogs are in mine or my sister's room. And then I just randomly keep hearing stuff.
I mean, honestly, I know everybody loves to talk about all the ghost hunting equipment, but I personally am a believer that your senses are the best tools in an investigation, you know, because
that is what the heebie-jeebies are.
The main thing that I want,
nature's
though,
ghost hunting tool.
one of the best ghost hunting, or two of the best, I should say, two of the best ghost hunting tools are a flashlight that have like the turn knob.
Oh, sure.
You can get at Home Depot, or a cat ball.
Yes, the cat balls.
Cat balls have been very useful for us.
Yeah.
REM pods are pretty good too, but you just can't get too close to them.
Our REM pod has been going nuts the last few.
That means there might be something going right into them.
Well, that was just it. We got to the point where it's like, oh, maybe we should change the batteries because it was that active. It was so active that it was like, no, there's something wrong with that REM pod.
Well, and the cat balls too were just going insane.
With the cat balls though, you gotta like sit there and stop,
right,
and or like go and move it or something, and
even like micro movements don't move it as much as you.
It's true.
It's not triggered as much as you'd think because we would try to replicate it. We like,
it does.
Yeah. Something
especially
is setting
with
it off.
as much energy as they can take from you.
Yeah. That tells you how much energy is being used.
It's true. Yeah, the cat balls are one of our favorite tools, especially when we're dealing with like younger children's spirits. It's just so much easier, and they comprehend it more.
Right. If a spirit died in the 1800s, pointing to an electric box is
it's not, like what?
Yeah. Go over to that lit up
shiny
round cylinder.
Yes.
scary electric box. Yes.
Spot.
Well, Robin, thank you so much for joining us today. It has just been so much fun to talk to you, and
it was fun being on it.
Yes, you are going to be such a good paranormal investigator. I'm
true.
Super excited
Absolutely.
to hear about all the experiences and stories that you eventually will bring about. And please keep in contact with us because, yes, we will love to hear more of your stories. But thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us under Haunted City Podcasts under all of the things, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the good stuff. Also, if you are looking for spooky jewelry, I do sell all the handmade spell jars and stuff like that. So you can check that out at countrywitchco.com. And with that, though, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.